All right. Hi, this is Mr. Post for government. We're going to do chapter 3 notes. So let's get started. Let me present my screen. Okay, we're into the Constitution now. We talked about how we got here previously in the last two chapters. What is government? How the Constitution happened? Why we needed a Constitution? The Articles of Confederation didn't work. What have you? Why we were needed a new government? Well, we revolted against the British, and here we are. We're a new country. So, so let's talk about the Constitution first. Why has the Constitution lasted so long? One, it's flexible. What is different today than from 1787? Well, so much. We can. There's so much. Society has changed. 100% or 100 times over since the beginning of the Constitution, but it still is a functional government because there's a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of gray area. They didn't write specific laws in there that wasn't necessary. And so we can change it. And that's the other thing. We can change it. So with amendments. Okay, so what's popular sovereignty? It's the consent of the governed. That means that people are saying, okay, we want to be governed. We want to obey the rules. So the majority of people are saying that they want to be part of the United States and follow the rules that are laid out by the Constitution of the United States. Sections of the Constitution. The first is the preamble. It is the introduction and it has 6 goals. Those goals are to form a more perfect union. Why? What caused this? So we wanted to be a better government that offered under the Articles of Confederation. So we wanted to make it so that we are the United States, not just the states of America, the United States of America. To establish justice, we needed a court system. And the court system is probably one of the most important parts of our government, is because people can go to the court and with their complaints, with their problems and with other people, and not have to fight and use violence to solve them, but use arguments and discussions and mediation to be able to figure out civil differences, and then also to get retribution when people broke the law, like committing a crime. To ensure domestic tranquility, to preserve the peace within the nation. So this is a huge talking point that we currently are having during this presidential election in 2020. But the thing that you have to remember that there is this, because we were a new nation and because a lot of people are just starting to buy in to having the United States of America, having peace is very important, because you need to be able to have a steady a steady form of government, so that people can know what to expect from in the future. To provide common defense. So we had to be able to protect ourselves. So having an army to protect ourselves, we did not have one under the Articles of Confederation. And to promote the general welfare. The government should help all people all of the time. And that is that wasn't always the case, but obviously that's the goals. And to secure the blessings of liberty. The government should protect freedom and liberty for all Americans. And that's another thing that it wasn't always the case, but this is definitely what we're striving to do. All right, what is majority versus minority? So majority is when 50% plus 1 agrees on something. And minority is less than 50%. They take on the role of the loyal opposition. Okay. The national government, called the federal government. The federal government shares powers with the state, but some powers are just for the national government. Delegated powers only for the federal government. They regulate trade, coin money, conduct foreign relations, create post offices and interstates, create an army, declare war and make peace, add territory and states, regulate immigration, and make all laws necessary and proper. This is called the Elastic Clause. Remember, this is delegated powers. These are all things that only the federal government can do. Reserve powers are only for the states. Establish local governments, conduct elections, decide voter qualifications, create schools, help regulate business, make marriage laws, license professionals, retain all powers not granted to the federal government. Oops. So these are reserve powers. And this is the interesting part, is that like throughout our history, we've had a lot of arguments discussing what is a state power and what's a federal power, and where those, where's the line? Shared powers. So these are called concurrent powers. That's taxation. We get state tax and federal taxes. Borrow money. The states can borrow money. So can the federal government. Create courts. Both can have their court systems. Create banks. Same thing. Enforce laws. We have federal police like the FBI, the CIA, and we have things like the state troopers. Provide health and welfare benefits to their people. These are all things that both the federal government and the state government provide. The separation of powers. It ensures no one branch of the government becomes more powerful than the other. That's why there are 3 branches of government. The legislative branch, which makes the laws, which is Article 1. Executive branch enforces the laws, which is Article 2. And the judicial branch, which interprets the laws and punish, Article 3. So checks and balances. Checks in legislative branch. President, executive branch can veto any bill. The Supreme Court, the judicial branch, can declare a law unconstitutional. So that makes it so that one branch can't become too powerful. Now, the checks on the executive branch are a lot longer, mainly because the people were worried about the president becoming a dictator or a king. Congress, the legislative branch, can override a president's veto. So if a bill gets passed, the president vetoes it, they can undo the veto by having a 2/3 majority pass through Congress. Congress can impeach the president. That happened last year with Donald Trump. He was the 3rd president to be impeached. But notice that he's still in office. Impeach doesn't mean that you get kicked out of office. It just means you are going to a trial to decide whether or not you should be kicked out of office. Congress must approve all presidential appointments. We're going to see that starting just recently. We're going to see there's a new judge being approved and appointed, and the Senate has to approve it. And we're going to have a hearing to see if they agree to vet the incoming judge. Supreme Court can declare a presidential action unconstitutional, and that is a huge deal because this president and other presidents have done things where they've had executive orders that have been shut down by the Supreme Court. Checks on the judicial branch. The president appoints the members of the court, and Congress approves those members. Congress may impeach a justice if they believe they had done something that is unethical and against their oath. And Congress may pass a constitutional amendment. So if a judge rules on a Supreme Court, the justices rule on an issue, and there's dissenting opinions, then the Congress can make an amendment to overrule that ruling. Changing the Constitution, amending process. There's 2 ways to change the Constitution. Number one is 2/3 of both houses of Congress vote for it, and then 3/4 of the state legislatures vote for it, or 2/3 of both houses of Congress vote, and 3/4 of the state legislatures call for a convention. Either way, the states and Congress have to approve it. Amendments can also be repealed, like prohibition, with another amendment. There's an amendment to outlaw alcohol and one to legalize it again. So that's the 18th and 21st Amendment. Other ways the Constitution changes is judicial interpretation. Customs and traditions added by the president, like the cabinet, for example. So George Washington created a cabinet. It was only 2 members, but they met in his kitchen at the kitchen table, and that's why it kind of was dubbed the cabinet, because it was his kitchen cabinet. It was his confidants, his people that were helping him run give him interpretations and advice about what they should do going forward. And these are other ways that the Constitution can be changed. Now, the judicial interpretation is huge, because we talked about this earlier, that many times we have seen a ruling by the Supreme Court justices, and that has changed the way we live our lives for sometimes hundreds of years, even maybe 50, 30 years. There's a lot of cases that are going to be looked at if the court is now going to be a more conservative court. And there's a lot of issues that have been ruled on and looked at closely by the Supreme Court if this justice is approved by the Senate that Donald Trump has appointed. So it should be an interesting couple of years in the Supreme Court, because there may be a lot of controversial rulings that overturn previous rulings before. And that's the judge's job, is to interpret the Constitution for the times in which they're happening right then. So please watch the video, and we'll have a test over Chapter 3, and we'll try to get through as much material as possible so you guys can have a time to take your Constitution test and your Illinois Constitution test before the end of the semester. All right, guys, I'll see you in a bit.